is simply too terrible to admit. It tells man that he is a small, trembling animal who will someday decay and die. Culture changes this. It makes man seem important, vital to the universe, immortal in some way. The rules of society are often unwritten, never spoken, and left for us to come to understand through our experiences. What are these unspoken rules, and where do they come from? If we can understand what society's unspoken rules are, and where they come from, we can formulate a better understanding of our own identities and how human beings relate to one another. Our personal identities are shaped through experiences. I learned through my Cornell research that our attempts to answer unanswerable questions in life that constantly throw themselves at us determine our own personal identities. I also found that our communities, our interests, and all of the achievements that we achieve throughout our life create our evolving sense of identity. Religion, ethnicity, family heritage, and nationality are all strong factors that contribute towards our sense of identity. Not only do we wish to form a personal identity through our life, but we also hope to connect to our time and place in history. In an effort to establish a sense of continuity, we wish to immortalize ourselves through heroic deeds that contribute to our society's overall flow. Recently, I've been reading a lot of authors because of a class that I'm taking at Central that talk about philosophy, and two of these authors, Lifton and Becker, talk a lot about the ideas of symbolic immortality and heroism, which are kind of, they're basically the same principle, just from two different views. And basically what they're proposing is that everyone needs a connection to the ideas of life and life imagery, and we're all trying to get away from the ideas of death and death imagery, and the anxieties of death drive us to accomplish everything. And basically what they're saying is that through creating a culture and contributing to our culture or our society, we can transcend our own individual lives and become immortal and live on through the achievements that we've created in our life that contribute to the historical context of man as an entire species. So bringing those ideas into my Cornell research, I kind of started to think that the ideas of trying to create our own identity stem from a need to be remembered, and that all of the rules in society come from the individuals that make up that society. So if our personal identities are formulated in response to our anxieties towards death, then the unwritten rules of society come from the people within the society being afraid of death. So that's kind of where I was going with those ideas. So then, looking at Sherman Alexie's experiences through Indian education, I saw that he was kind of both isolated from himself, his own Indian heritage, and the white world, because he didn't really fit in either. The Indians looked at him as kind of like snooty and stuff because he was valedictorian and he tried hard and he worked hard at school, so he didn't really fit in with his Indian peers. And then his white peers saw him as just another Indian. So he was kind of dislocated from both. And so I guess he learned that people expected him to live only within his Indian community because of his dark skin. And so he was kind of excluded from both, and he didn't really have a place. So basically, through Alexie's experiences, we came to the conclusion that society's unwritten rules often stem from discrimination and separation. And his writings suggest that these prejudices and assumptions tend to isolate us from each other. And then the story that I read, the short story I read, was from the Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven. And it was because my father always said he was the only Indian who saw Jimi Hendrix play the Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock. And basically, this story was exploring the relationship between the narrator, his father, and his mother. His father, when he was younger, kind of was a drunk and would come home late at night and listen to this recording that he had of Jimi Hendrix playing the Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock, and this was kind of like their ritual. When he'd come home drunk, his son would put on this tape, kind of, I guess, to really pacify him, because I guess he could, maybe if he didn't put on the tape, he would be violent or something, and so the son just knew that if he put on this tape, he would come home, start singing along, and pass out. And so then the son would lie on the floor with him and wait until he woke up the next day, and so this was kind of their connection. And then as the story goes on, he kind of discusses how his parents always fought when he was growing up, but since they were Indians, they didn't want to separate. They wanted to make their relationship work. They were stubborn to make it work. And I kind of, reading the story, he brings up this idea that Indian fathers don't generally walk out on their families, and his father finally did walk out on them. And I just thought that it was kind of like an inequality, how it's socially acceptable, because he said that whites have been walking out on their families for generations. But when an Indian does it, it's a big deal, because they haven't been doing that, and part of their culture is against that. Like, it's your responsibility to care for your family, to provide for your family in his culture. And so it's one of those things that is just like a difference between these two types of cultures. And then I thought that this showed that our unspoken rules come from our traditional, like the traditional heritage of our culture. So even though he's living in the modern world, his father doesn't feel comfortable walking out, and it takes a lot for him to do it because his cultural values say that it's completely wrong and it goes against everything. So where do these unspoken rules come from? So answering this question is kind of impossible. It just depends on the society. Every society is different, so every society is going to be shaped by different unspoken rules, and the unspoken rules are going to come from different issues that crop up in that society. But ultimately, since the individuals make up the society, our individual senses of identity are going to answer these questions of where are the unspoken rules in society and what are the unspoken rules in society. So basically, that's the conclusion that we came to.
Okay, thank you.